not enough attention and not enough time is taken for pastors to equip themselves with a biblical world and life view, and with a cultural apologetic. So it's often not their fault. They're very often, this just wasn't on the test. This trope that you've correctly pointed out there, that, well, I just need to preach the gospel, is a reflection of the collapse of the biblical world and life view within the church. Pastors of previous generations recognized that part of the message of the gospel included human identity and sexuality, that marriage was a central part of the declaration of the gospel of the kingdom. Karl Marx himself recognized that the key, he said, as an atheistic materialist, to the holy family was the earthly family, and for the former to be to be undermined, to be done away, you must destroy the latter in theory and in practice. He recognized that the holy family was dependent on the earthly family in terms of human understanding. Now, if you take away fatherhood and the idea of bride and bridegroom, what is the gospel? We've lost our sense of the gospel. So previous generations of Christians did not struggle with this. It only seems to be the contemporary church, contemporary Christians that struggle with the notion that marriage, the male and female bond of monogamous marriage, is the central aspect to the meaning and proclamation of the gospel of the kingdom. You don't have to be an expert in apologetics and culture. That's not required of every pastor, but we need to take the time to prepare ourselves with a biblical worldview. And as Charles Spurgeon often said, I have a Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. I've got to be relating these two. I've got to be showing people how the Word of God relates itself to all of the issues that are going in our culture, because that is what our congregations are confronting week in and week out, Monday through Friday. They're in the workplace and with their neighbors and so on and so forth, and they are grappling with these issues. So we have to be able to help them to understand how the Word of God, how the claims of Christ and his lordship, for those of us who are Christians who are listening, applies to all these different areas of life. And I don't think we've given anywhere near sufficient attention to that. Marriage and biblical sexuality are seen as oppression within the Marxist worldview. And we've got a culture now that has almost completely lost its sense of identity. And some of this is, of course, being done through undermining people's sense of who they are through these critical theories that are pushed in the media and in the universities and in our education system. Well, pastors, Tony, they have to come to grips with this. They have to understand this. When this is the dominant philosophy within a culture, shaping an education system, shaping political life. When battles in the culture are over pronouns, you can't leave that struggle to J.K. Rowling. You can't leave it to Sharon Davis. So we have to acknowledge, of course, there is an element of the modern Western church that is actually either in the grip of fear or actually syncretism. They're just unwilling, and it's an excuse. It's not true for all, but the whole thing about not upsetting people just becomes an excuse. Avoid the subject as long as you can, interwin. Maybe once they've come on a long journey with you, then maybe they'll be ready to hear something along this line. You've got to show total acceptance of people's lifestyles and behaviors, and and over time, maybe the opportunity will arise in which, well, look, the issue is that just simply isn't the way it happens in the Word of God, and it's not the way we're told to do it in the Word of God. If we in any way adulterate the Word, try and shave off the rough edges, try and hide it, try and cover it, are ashamed of it in some way or embarrassed about it, we will find that adulterating of the Word will not commend itself to the conscience of people. These ideas are not new. They've come back in a slightly different uniform, with a slightly different terminology in academic Western terminology in the language of critical theory and Marxism, but they're not new ideas. They're not new practices. Let's stop feeling sorry for ourselves. Let's stop feeling embarrassed about the faith. We have to show God's compassion and kindness in these situations without compromising what is true. You know, the bishops in the House of Lords failed monumentally on this
Yeah.
with the redefinition of marriage.
Yeah.
We continue to fail in publicly on this issue, and actually, people are crying out for some clarity. You know, if when you think about the whole male and female identity issue, that of course is the foundation of the marriage relationship. If you can't distinguish between a man and a woman, and you don't have fathers and mothers anymore, um, then how can you preach the gospel to somebody where God is their father?
Mm. Mm.
How can you preach about the Son of the living God if the family has collapsed? It doesn't have any meaning to people if these terms are all meaningless or interchangeable. What can we do? Well, we have to recover our prophetic voice. That's one thing. So we have to be prepared to speak to the issue. You know, the church has become largely like an Arctic river today. It's frozen at the mouth, and we have to get
I like
unfrozen.
it. Yeah.
Um, you know, we have to speak, and we
Mm.
have to get serious again about discipline around infidelity, and adultery and
Mm.
fornication in the life of the church. And you know, it has been shown, studies have shown that you know, if you want a lasting, stable, fulfilling in every way marriage, the latest stats and studies have shown marry a committed Christian man, ladies.
Reverend Dr. Joe Boot, such a privilege to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for your work. Keep up the great stuff, and let's talk again soon.
Thank you, Tony.